एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so last time we covered up till verse number 46, and I think we started from verse number 40. So last week we talked about characteristics of Bhakti Yoga. In verse number 40 and 41, Krishna told Arjuna that Bhakti, it has got a specific benefit. What is that? That one can continue this from the point he leaves it. In this life or in next life, he will continue. He will advance further. You don't have to restart from the 0 point, like how we do it in any material activity. So that's a wonderful point of bhakti, and it can save us from, mahato bhaya, the greatest fear of going back to the animal species, falling down. So at least one will get birth in human form and in a conducive atmosphere where he can practice devotional service again and advance further on this path. And verse number again, next verse also Krishna told about same thing. Vyavasai atmika buddhi. What is that? One pointed attention. We have to have firm conviction that only by Krishna consciousness, only by Krishna bhakti, I can achieve the highest perfection of life. That is Krishna prema. So we need to have that. And we also learned how this verse, after reading the commentary to this verse by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Srila Prabhupada, he got great conviction and determination to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master. He took it as life and soul, and at the age of 70, he set out to the Western world to fulfill the instruction of his Guru Maharaj. Like he had one pointed attention and conviction to fulfill the desire of his instruction of his spiritual master. So similarly, we also need to have our goal fixed. If we have, little bit of this, little bit of that, then we cannot advance, that fast, and we can't achieve success. So we need to have full conviction, and with determination, with full sincerity, we have to practice devotional service. Verse number 42-43, Krishna again minimized the karam kanda, that how less intelligent people, they perform it. It's not so important. Vedvataratas, just there's no point in studying the Vedas unless and until you know the purpose of the Vedas. Purpose of the Vedas is to know the spiritual Lord. And then again we understood, the people who are engaged in karam kanda, what happens to them? They get bhoga and aishwarya by these activities, sense enjoyment and opulence. And in the next verse, 44th verse, then Krishna told what is the result of getting bhoga and aishwarya. What is the result? That if one is attached to these two things, then he cannot have fixed determination to practice devotional service. So that is the disadvantage. So Krishna says that you will get this, but there will be obstacles on the path of your spiritual progress. So in verse number 45, then Krishna tells Arjuna to rise above all this. Arjuna, rise above the three modes, become transcendental to the three modes. Nistra Gunya Bhava Arjuna. And so verse number 46, then Krishna explains this point, that how one should come to the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, how we have to rise above the three modes, and we have to try to achieve the ultimate purpose by reading and understanding the Vedas. And what is that? That is Krishna. And Krishna gave the analogy here of the well water and the a bigger reservoir's water. So we understood that how whatever activities can be performed by well water can be by different wells. All those activities can be performed by the water of one big reservoir or by one river. So similarly, just by performing devotional service, all other things will be covered up. If we come to the point of understanding Krishna and practicing devotional service, then there is no need to be caught up in the other aspects of Vedas. Okay? So this is the highest thing. So why we have to waste our time for all those things? So Krishna is telling him that Arjuna, don't be caught in this karam kanda and rise to the transcendental platform. Okay, so today we will start from verse number 47. Verse number 47. Karmanevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan ma karam phal heturbhur ma te sangvastav karmani. Who will read? Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, you joined first. Maybe you can start.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation: you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport: there are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoyed in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of the authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the spiritual injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Can you please scroll down? Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So we had just started talking about this verse last week, but we had to then leave the class because another class was scheduled. So sorry about that again. So this is a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita, and it is known by common people. You must have also heard it, people quoting it for different reasons, and it is also misused at many places. So what has happened so far? We have seen Krishna has been talking about various subject matters. He talked about soul and body. Then he talked about Karam Kand. Then he talked about Nishkam Karam Yoga, and he told characteristics of Bhakti Yoga. So Arjuna could get confused, and he may ask, what am I supposed to do out of all this? So Krishna is speaking a very important Siddhanta here. And this Siddhanta is being repeated by Krishna throughout Bhagavad Gita again and again in various ways. And what is this Siddhanta? This is Nishkam Karam Yoga. Okay, so Karmani eva adhikaraste. Eva means only. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, your only right, your only adhikar is to perform karma, duty. But it's not any karma. I can perform. Krishna has told me to do karma, so I will do karma. It's not any karma that one likes or whatever he thinks, he wants to do, he can do. No, this karma is prescribed duty according to the Varnashram Dharma. That is what Krishna is telling him. So you have a right to perform. You have the right to perform your Varnashram duties. That's what you can do, Arjuna. That is your only right. Eva. But next thing is na phaleshu kadachan. But you are not entitled to the fruits of activities. Why someone gets attached to the fruits? Because he thinks that he is the doer. We think that we are working hard from morning till evening. So of course the result, the fruit, that should be given to me. But here what is Krishna saying? That don't be attached to the fruit. You are not entitled to the fruits of activities. So what he's saying, don't consider yourself to be the cause of the result. Ma karam phal hetur bhur. You are not the cause of the result. Someone may think it's ridiculous. I work, but someone else gets the fruit, and telling me that I am, not the cause of the result. What is this? No, so what's the point in doing anything then? Why to work? But then again, Krishna says, what is it? Ma karam phele turgur. But then Krishna is also saying that you don't have to be attached to not performing your duties. Krishna has trapped us from all the sides. So you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Ma phaleshu kadachan. Never consider yourself the cause of the result. And then you don't even have to be attached to not doing your duty. You're not entitled to the result, but then don't think that, oh, I don't have to work then. You can't be attached to not performing your duties. So Krishna has trapped us from all the sides. So what is he instructing to Arjuna? That your only business is to perform your prescribed duties. And that's the instruction of Krishna for all of us through Arjuna. Okay. And Srila Prabhupada here is introducing three terms. What is that? Karma, vikarma, and akarma. So we should understand that what is karma, what is vikarma, and what is akarma. Because in this verse, Krishna is using the word akarmani. So, akarma. So that's why Prabhupada is explaining in detail. Karma is the prescribed duties that we are supposed to perform. These prescribed duties are according to the scriptures, according to the Varnashram Dharma. And vikarma, that is opposite, without the sanction of any authority. They are not prescribed according to the scriptures. These are kind of, sinful activities, capricious work that we should avoid, vikarma. And akarma has got three meanings. What is the first meaning? Actions which don't bear any reactions. How do we do that? By performing devotional service to Krishna. Then what happens? Krishna takes away all the reactions. So what we do in Bhakti Yoga is akarma. We do everything for the pleasure of the Lord. So we don't get any reaction. It becomes akarma. Otherwise, good karma, bad karma, it will get us the result, reaction. We will be bound. When we do it for Krishna's pleasure, then Krishna takes away all the reactions. Second meaning of akarma is not performing one's duties due to fear or due to laziness or due to frustration. So it's like inaction. We become inactive due to tamo gun or a rajo gun. We want to give up everything. That's it. Or some is very lazy because of a tamo gun he doesn't want to do, or because of a rajo gun that, oh, it didn't give me the result what I expected, so I don't have to continue. So inaction, that is the second meaning. Third meaning is, this is specifically for the jnanis. They think that karma is binding. So they give up the karmas altogether. No karma at all. Just sit and meditate. So that is for the jnanis. So here in this verse, the word akarmani, this is, Krishna here is conveying the second meaning of akarma. That is not performing one's duties, inaction. So Arjuna, you're not supposed to do that. You can't be attached to not doing your duty. You can't be inactive. So this is an important statement here. That work with results is in the second paragraph of the purport, that work with results become the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. So if we do any work expecting a result from it, being attached to the result, then we are definitely going to be bound by that work. And that is not auspicious work. Okay. And it's a universal siddhant. So that's why, Nishkam Karam Yoga. Without expecting any result, we have to do our duty. It's a universal law. And Krishna keeps repeating it again and again. And we should remember it very well so that we are not bound by our actions. Don't be attached to the result because you are not the cause of the result. How? How is that possible? I'm doing everything and you are saying I'm not the cause of the result. No, we are not the cause because there are several factors which, give us that result. And these factors are beyond our control also. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, that everyone is working hard. We say that if you work hard, you can be successful, you can be rich and all that. But there are so many people doing the same thing. But does everyone become Tata Birla? Now, these days we have these Ambanis and all. Rather, there are people who are not working as hard as others, but they still get more money than those who are working hard. Prabhupada gave example of a businessman. In his time, there was a businessman who couldn't put his own signature also. He was totally illiterate, but he was a crorepati. And on the other hand, there was a well-qualified doctor, but he hardly had any money. He had to ride on a cycle only. And we see in our day-to-day life also, some students, they are working very hard, but they get less marks compared to those who just do little study at the last minute only. At the time of the exams, students go blank, even if they had learned everything. Why does it happen? If everything is in our control, then why can't we get in the result what we want, what we expect? Because everything is not in our control. Then who is controlling that? Some superior power. So first of all, we have to understand this thing. I am not the cause of the result. So who is it then? Some higher power. Some higher power is controlling the results. He is giving it to me. So then, if he is giving that result to me, then who should be entitled for that result? Of course, he, not me. Right? If Krishna doesn't sanction anything, we just cannot get it. We can take another example of a farmer also. What can a farmer do? A farmer can work hard, he can prepare the field, he can sow the seeds, he can remove all the weeds, and he can water the plants and everything. But is the final crop in his hand? No, right? It will be good crop or bad crop or surplus or what, we don't know. It depends upon other factors also. Weather, rain, wind, anything can spoil everything in a minute. So there is something higher which is controlling all this. It's not just our hard work. So now if someone thinks that, okay, it's getting too complicated, let me just not do any work. Let me stop doing everything. But then Krishna says, last part of the verse, that is also not allowed. Not be attached to not doing your duty. Last paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada is telling any attachment, positive or negative, is the last line, rather second last line. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful because it's based upon I only. I want to do it, I don't want to do it, that's it. Wherever I am there, then we are bound by it. Okay, so it's a very important verse and it can really help us. It's an important siddhant. Of course, we are practicing above this bhakti yoga, but nishkam karam yoga is before that, and we should understand what it is. We should not be attached to the result. Then only we can become free from the bondage of the work. And some people, they misinterpret it. If some people quote it in front of you, now you should have proper understanding and help them understand it the right way. Some people understand, that I have the right to work, but they don't have the understanding that work should be according to the scriptures. No, they will like to do anything they want to. This is also a misunderstanding by them. And some people then, as we understood, till the third part only, they just take it in pieces and parts. They don't understand the full verse. They just say, oh, this causes this bondage and all, so let me just not do anything. So it can lead to inaction, it can lead to irresponsibility. They can leave everything to destiny also, that okay, then destiny is deciding everything, so why do I have to do anything? But Krishna is telling, no, you have to do your duty. And then people can also you know understand that this is a common thing. People say that work is worship, so karam hi puja hai, bhakti we will do later on. So they just don't understand that to how we have to do the karam. There's another part of it also. We don't have to be attached to the result. We have to do the karam, but we don't have to be attached to the result. So we should have proper understanding, full understanding of this verse, and then only it can help us. Okay, so Moving on to verse number 48. So here Krishna is telling now definition of Nishkam Karam Yoga. In 47th verse, he told about that Siddhant, and now here we will tell the definition of that. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samtvam yoga uchyate. Chechu Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Perform your duties equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up to the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is participating in the Varnasarama Dharma institution. It is said that in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnasarama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself as in the rule of the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnasarama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji. So again, what is Krishna telling here? That perform your duty, but be detached from the result. For Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Don't worry about the result. Perform your duty equipoised. Such equanimity is called yoga. Which yoga? Nishkam Karama Yoga. And Srila Prabhupada tells how Arjuna should simply follow Krishna's dictation. This is called Krishna consciousness. He himself is telling Arjuna to fight. So Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory, they are Krishna's concern. He has to only act according to dictation of Krishna. So following such dictation is real yoga. So this is what we have to understand. Now moving on to verse number 49. Durena hai avratam karma buddhi yogad dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvicha krapanaha phala hetavaha. Deepa Mataji, you want to read?
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation: O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport: one who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagement save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually blind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here Krishna is mentioning about avaram karma. You know, Durena hai avratim karma. So what is the word to word meaning? Abominable. That Arjuna, keep yourself far away from this work. It's like fruitive activity, expecting some fruit in return. It's abominable. This type of action causes bondage. So Arjuna, keep it far away. Therefore, act in buddhi yoga. Buddhi means intelligence. We talked about it. Use your intelligence and try to work for something permanent. So what do you have to do then? Nishkam karam yoga. So one who acts for fruits, that person is a miser. Prabhupada is telling about all this. He's a miser. He holds on to fruits for himself. Who are misers? Who don't know how to utilize their assets. So this type of a person is also miser. He doesn't know how to utilize it for the best purpose. Such people, they desire to enjoy the fruit themselves. And this will not get them anything in return except for bondage. So don't be a miser. Okay, kripana phala hetavaha. Misers desire the fruit for themselves. So we don't have to be misers. We have to offer it to the Lord. We don't have to be attached to the fruit. Okay, moving on to verse number 50. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrata duskrate tasmad yogaya yujasva yoga karmasu kaushalam.
Hare Krishna. Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here Krishna is telling the art of the work. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. So what is the art of the work? What is that? Buddhi yukto. Again, buddhi yoga. Do nishkam karma yoga. So no attachment to the result and fruit. It's to be given to the Lord. So yeah, we don't have anything else. So same activity, if we have this understanding, same activity can be performed on the material platform or on the spiritual platform. It can cause bondage or it can cause liberation. No? We want to do it for our satisfaction or we want to do it for the satisfaction of the Supreme. That's it. That consciousness makes all the difference. This is the art of work. This is how we have to work. Okay, moving on to verse number 51. Karma jama buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinah janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gachanti anamayam. Next, please read it. Dechu Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to the Godhead. Purport. The liberated living entities belong to a place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam says, Sarvam Mahat Padam Punya Yasu Murare Va Buddhir Vasta Padam Param Padam 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 Yet Vidam Vipadam Na Tesam. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti, the ocean of the material world is like water contained in a calf's footprint. Param Padam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikunta is his goal, not the place where there is danger to every step of life. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance, only less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant action will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of the Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikunta planets, where there is neither material, miserable life nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who understands that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikunta Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here again, Krishna is just saying that, many devotees have been doing it in past. What Krishna just told him in the previous verses, how you have to be not attached to the result, just to, perform Nishkam Karam Yoga. So he's saying that it's nothing new that I'm telling you or I'm introducing to you now only. Manishinaha. The last word in the first line. Halam tyaktva manishinaha. Many devotees have been giving up the fruit and working in such a manner. And then in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining in detail about difference between material and the spiritual world. That how less intelligent people, they try to adjust to the situations in the material world by fruitive activities, thinking that the result of this activity will make me happy. But hardly they know that anywhere within this universe, there is a place which is free of miseries. Miseries, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, they are present everywhere within the material world. Starting from the bottommost to the topmost, it is always there. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, that he is the master, he is the whole, we are his parts, we are his servants, and our business is to engage in his transcendental loving service, not forced service. Understanding all this, we have to engage in loving service of the Lord. And then we can enter the Vaikunta planet. That is the place which is free from miseries. Miserable life, time, death have no influence over there. So if we want to go to a place like that, we want to be free from the miseries, then we need to understand our position, Lord's position, and then establish relationship. Act according to that relationship. We are his servants, and then we have to serve him lovingly. And we can be free from the miseries. So yeah, that's what Prabhupada is telling in the purport. So moving on to next verse number 52. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishati tada gantasi nirvedam shrutavasya shrutasya cha.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is that is to be heard. Purport. There are many good examples in the lives of the great devotees of the Lord, of those who became indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas simply by devotional service to the Lord. When a person factually understands Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, he naturally becomes completely indifferent to the rituals of fruitive activities. Even though an experienced Brahmana, Sri Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee and Acharya in the line of the devotees, says, "O my prayers 3 times a day, all glories to you. O bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. O demigods, O forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Krishna, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. The Vedic rites and rituals are imperative for neophytes. Comprehending all kinds of prayers 3 times a day, taking a bath early in the morning, offering respects to the forefathers, etc. But when one is fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles because he has already attained the perfection. If one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Lord, he has no longer to execute different types of penances and sacrifices as recommended in revealed scriptures. And similarly, if one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna and simply engages in the rituals, etc., then he is uselessly wasting time in such engagements. Persons in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of Shabda Brahma, Brahma, or the range of the Vedas and Upanishads. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here, Krishna is saying, Yadate moha kalilam. What is moha kalilam? If you see word to word meaning, moha is illusion and kalilam is dense forest. And this dense forest, what Krishna is talking about is Karam Kand. So he's asking him to come out of this forest of Karam Kand. What happens if one gets in this forest? One gets lost. He just forgets what is the goal. So if one just gets entangled in the Karam Kanda section of the Vedas, he just gets lost by the illusion, by the dense forest of the illusion, and he forgets what is the goal. Goal is to know Krishna, to practice Krishna consciousness, devotional service. He doesn't practice devotional service then. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to not get lost in all this complicated stuff in Vedas. It's like a forest. So become indifferent to Karam Kand and rise above all this. And Srila Prabhupada is quoting here Madhavendra Puri. It's beautiful. That 3 times I'm offering the prayers and bathing and everything, demigods, forefathers. He's saying, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. This is the proper understanding of the Vedas. And in the last paragraph of the purport, again, Prabhupada is concluding. If one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna, and one simply engages in the rituals, in the beginning also Prabhupada has told, Vedic rites and rituals, they are imperative for neophytes. Praying 3 times, taking a bath early morning, offering respects to the forefathers. But if they are not Krishna conscious, then all that is just a waste. The purpose is to reach Krishna. Simply engaging in the rituals is just uselessly wasting time in such engagements. So this is what we need to understand. Okay, now moving on to verse number 53. This is the last verse of this section. Now, what will be the result if one comes out of this dense forest of delusion of the Vedas? Krishna is telling in verse number 53. Shruti vipratipanate yada sthasyati nischala samadhav achala buddhis tada yogam avapshasi. Who will read next?
Mataji, can I read?
Yes, ma'am.
Translation. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of the self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. Purport. To say that one is in samadhi is to say that one has fully realized Krishna consciousness. That is, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The highest perfection of self-realization is to understand that one is eternally the servitor of Krishna, and that one's only business is to discharge one's duties in Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person is unflinching unflinching devotee of the Lord, should not be disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, not be engaged in the fruitive activities for promotion of the heavenly kingdom, promotion to the heavenly kingdom. In Krishna consciousness, one comes directly into communion with Krishna, and thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in the transcendental state. One is sure to achieve results by such activities and attain conclusive knowledge. One has only to carry out the orders of Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So what is the result? What do we understand? Then one can be situated in samadhi. Samadhav achala buddhis. His buddhi will become achala. What is achala? The word to word meaning, it's unflinching, unwavering. His buddhi will be fixed. And he will be in samadhi. Samadhi on whom? On the Supreme. Tada yogam avapshasi. He will achieve then that yoga at that time. So Krishna has, so far we have seen he has encouraged Arjuna in this entire section to give up Karam Kand platform and rise to the Karam Yoga platform, where one performs the duties only as a matter of duty without being attached to the result. And Prabhupada again in the purport is telling that how a Krishna conscious person or unflinching devotee of the Lord should not be disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas. He should not be engaged in fruitive activities for promotion to the heavenly kingdom. No, in Krishna consciousness, when one comes directly into communion with Krishna, thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in that transcendental state. One has only to carry out the orders of Krishna or his representative spiritual master. So this is the conclusion Prabhupada is giving from here, that we don't have to be attracted by the Karam Kand and fruitive activities, the flowery language of the Vedas. That is just uselessly wasting our time, this human form of life. We have to understand what is the purpose, the highest achievement by understanding the Vedas, that is Krishna. So we have to just follow Krishna's orders, instructions, and the spiritual master's instruction. So far we have seen how Krishna has defeated Arjuna's arguments. In the first part of the second chapter, we saw Krishna gave Jnana Yoga, body and soul, and defeated the compassion argument of Arjuna. And then the second section, Krishna talked about Karam Kanda, loss and gain, and he defeated the argument of loss of enjoyment given by Arjuna. And in a few verses, he also talked about sinful reactions. And now in this section, Buddhi Yoga, or we can say Karam Yoga, from Karam Kand, then they moved on to Karam Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Karam Yoga, we talked two types, so Nishkam Karam Yoga or Sakam Karam Yoga. So here Krishna, by telling about this Karam Yoga, Krishna has refuted the third argument of sinful reactions, that if you do your activities in this way without being attached to the result, then you won't have to face any reactions. So why are you worrying about sins and all that, Arjuna? Just do what you are supposed to do as a Kshatriya, it's your duty. Don't be attached to the result. Then you don't have to face the reaction. Now in verse number 53, we saw Krishna use the word, this is samadha, achala buddhi. So samadhi and also now Arjuna is putting up a question. He is asking that, you had said that if one comes out of the forest of delusion of the Vedas, then one can be situated in samadhi. So Arjuna is asking here 4 questions in verse number 54. Let's see what is he asking. Arjuna uvacha sthitpragnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitdhi kim prabhaseta kim asita vrajeta kim.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?" Purport. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a deceased man has his symptoms by which he is known as deceased, or as a learned man has his symptom. So a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know his specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks, for speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So what are the 4 questions Arjuna is asking here? That what are the symptoms of a person who is in samadhi? What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? So he's in samadhi. Second question is, how does he speak? And third question, how does he speak? What is his language? That's the same question only. Okay, we can put it in this way or that way. Then the third question is, how does he sit? And the fourth question is, how does he walk? So these questions, these are not like direct questions. They have some deeper meaning. The second part, like if we see how does he speak, what is his language, it doesn't mean like, does his language changes from Hindi to English or Kannada or Telugu, Tamil, etc. No. But it means like how he responds in different situations. During different dualities of this material world, how does he respond? And like the third part, it's saying that how does he sit? So it's not talking, what is his yogic posture? How is he doing his yoga? How is he chanting, sitting with back straight, eyes closed or open or what? No. But how he sits amidst sense objects. When he's surrounded by so many sense objects, then how does he sit down? How does he control himself? And how does he walk? That means how does he engage his senses? How does he work? How does he engage his senses? So this it has some deeper meaning. So we need to understand. It's a very interesting thing how Krishna will answer all this. It's already 7:56. Let me first ask you all if you have any questions so far. If you don't have any questions, we can maybe cover up at least 1 or 2 more verse, at least 1 verse. Yeah. Anybody, any questions so far in this chapter or what we have discussed today mainly? Okay. So like how in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada is telling, a diseased person has his symptoms, a rich man has his symptoms. So just by looking at them, by their behavior and all, we can make out that this person is this type of a person. And a fool is undiscovered as long as it does not speak. It's very important, just by wearing fancy clothes and dressing up nicely, we can't, we can fool somebody only till our mouth is shut. But a person will be discovered who actually he is as soon as he opens his mouth. So speaking about Krishna, of course, only can tell that a person is a devotee or not. So we should be very careful about that. So how everybody has different symptoms. So a person who is in samadhi, sthit pragya, Krishna, the very first word in this verse 54, sthit pragya ka bhasha. So person who is in sthit pragya, who is in samadhi, uski bhasha kya hai? So like that, Arjuna is asking. So a person who is in sthit pragya, he also has his own symptoms. So now in verse number 25, Krishna, so this rest of the verses, Krishna will be answering all these questions. In verse number 55, now Krishna will be answering the first question. What are the symptoms of a person of a sthit pragya? And in the verse number 56 and 57, then Krishna will tell about his speech. And then from verse number 58 to 63, Krishna will tell how he sits. And then last part, 64 to 72, Krishna will tell how he walks. So maybe we can cover up verse number 55 today. So this is the symptom of a person in samadhi. Prajahati yada. One second. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. Prajhati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmani evatmana tushtha sthit pragyastaduchyate.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental conception, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendental situated has no good qualification, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoction. Consequently, it is rightly said, Harlan, that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction artificially. Such sense without desire cannot be stopped. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desire subside without extraneous effort. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for his devotional service will instantly help one into the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the external servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such as transcendentally he situated person has no sense desire resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position for externally servicing the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Beta. What's your name?
Sanvi Mataji.
Thank you so much. Okay, so What is the main symptom of person in samadhi? So the first word, prajahati. Prajahati is gives up. What does he gives up? Sarva prajahati yada kaman. What are kaman? All the desires for sense gratification. Somebody is unmute. Dechu Mataji, can you be on mute? Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so Prajahatis gives up. What does he give up? Kaman, the desire for sense gratification. Sarvan, all the desires for, varieties of desires for enjoyment. Partha, Manogatam. From where do these desires come? They come from man, mind. Man kar raha hai, ye karna hai, wo karna hai. They all, our mind is under the influence of the three moods, and it's a storehouse of all the desires. But one who is in knowledge, he gives them up. No desires, no materialistic desires, for sense enjoyment. So that person is then Atmani evatmana tushtaha. Tushtaha is satisfied. In Atmani, in the pure state of soul, he is satisfied. But in materialistic life, there is no end to the material desires. So one is never satisfied. A person who is in samadhi, he is satisfied because he has given up all the desires for sense enjoyment. But if one has no demand for sense enjoyment, then only he can be satisfied. He can be satisfied with whatever Krishna has given. Is tushta, is satisfied. So this is the prime symptom of one who is in knowledge, who is not hankering for sense gratification, satisfying his unlimited desires, but is satisfied on the platform of soul and whatever Krishna has given. Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by this Bhagavatam verse. He tells, that if someone is a devotee engaged in devotional service, he has all good qualities. So how can we get this quality of satisfaction? If we engage in Krishna's service. But if someone is not a devotee, then he's traveling on the chariot of the mind. Then he has no good qualities. He will be never satisfied. He will have unlimited desires, and he will be ready to do anything to satisfy his desires. No good qualities. And then Prabhupada tells, artificially, these desires can't be given up. So one needs to have the knowledge that the prime goal of the life is to satisfy the Supreme. And that way only he can be satisfied, by satisfying the Supreme, by serving the Supreme. Okay, so this is the prime symptom of one who is in Samadhi, Sthit Prajna, that he has given up all the desires for sense enjoyment and he is satisfied on the level of soul. So it's 8:05 already. We will continue next week, and Krishna willing, we will complete this chapter. Yeah, next Monday. Thank you so much, everybody. Any questions, any reflections? If you want to share anything, we can spend 2 minutes.
Mataji, I missed the first part. Can I get it in recording or the YouTube link will do? Can I?
Yeah, definitely. I think Prabhuji has already shared the link in the group.
Yeah.
That
There's the whole class, no?
Yeah. The whole class is there. If you don't understand anything, you can ask it next time also.
Okay, sure, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, everyone, for joining and listening attentively. Srila Prabhupada will definitely be pleased by our endeavors. So let us just be more sincere and determined in reading the scriptures and understanding and applying this knowledge in our life. Keep inspiring us, how we have to be regular in reading. You people are inspiring me, and I'm trying to encourage you. So that way we all have to help each other. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.